Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Learning Path. This is Dr. B. Meena, Head Department of Commerce and Vice Principal of Shift 1, Petition College of Arts and Science. In this video, I'm going to discuss about the overhead variances, how to calculate the variances from the point of view of overheads. First of all, what do you mean by overheads? All indirect expenses are collectively called it as overheads. And all the elements of cost are material, labor, and overheads. In the previous videos, I discussed about how to calculate the variances for material as well as labor. From this video, I'm going to discuss about how we can calculate the variances for all the overheads. And in this video, I'm going to discuss about the application of formulas for calculating overhead variances. In order to check my previous videos, and you want to see my previous videos means, you please check the description box. And in this slide, I just gave a idea about what are the formulas applicable for calculating overhead variances. I already told you the meaning. The meaning for the overhead is all indirect expenses. So when we are going to produce a commodity, we used to incur both the kind of expenses, that is direct expenses as well as indirect expenses. What do you mean by direct expenses? Whatever expenses that is directly engaging for conversion of raw material into a finished product. Okay. Material and labor are the examples of the direct expenses. Apart from the material and labor, any other expenses which is indirectly engaged for converting a raw material into a finished product, that expenses are collectively called it as overheads. And in case of those overheads, how to calculate the variances? We used to put a standard cost for the overheads, as well as we need to compare the actual cost of overheads and whether the variance is favorable or unfavorable for a company. We need to check on that, and how to calculate the variances for the kind of overheads. So the first formula I mentioned over here, total overhead cost variance. How to calculate the total overhead cost variance? We need to compare the standard overheads minus actual total overheads. So standard total overheads minus actual total overheads. The overheads may be a kind of fixed overheads or maybe a variable overheads. So we need to get the summation of total overheads by adding the fixed overheads and variable overheads if it is given in the problem. So standard overheads, total overheads minus actual total overheads. Here I mentioned recovered. Recovered means how we are going to estimate is called it as recovered in the sense of cost accounting. Okay. The second formula I mentioned over here, variable overhead variances. I said no, overheads can be a fixed overheads or as variable overheads. So how to calculate the variable overhead variances? So we need to compare just what is the standard variable overheads minus actual variable overheads. The same sense, how to calculate the fixed overhead variances. The same thing, we need to compare the fixed overheads with the actual fixed overheads. So when we are comparing the standard fixed overheads with the actual fixed overheads means we used to calculate what is the fixed overhead variances, whether it is favorable or adverse for the company. Okay. After calculating the variable overhead variance and then fixed overhead variances, we used to have this verification. That verification formula is total overhead cost variance is equal to variable overhead variance plus fixed overhead variances. Fixed overhead variances. Variable overheads variance plus fixed overhead variance. You just get the summation and compare with this answer, and both the left hand side as well as right hand side answers are getting same amount means your workings are right. Okay, so this is all about how to calculate the overhead cost variances. Okay, the next slide, this is all about expenditure variance or budgeted variances. how to calculate the expenditure variances or budgeted variances. So budget overhead minus actual overhead, and then this formula we can make use to calculate the expenditure variances. You need to look at the problem, what is the expenditure is given. So what is the budgeted and actual, we need to compare. And next is volume variance. Volume variance we need to calculate by using this formula. What is the standard overheads minus budgeted overheads? The next formula here I mentioned over there, efficiency variance. How to calculate the efficiency variance? By comparing the actual production with the standard production. And this has to be multiplied with the standard rate per hour. Okay, we will work out the problem. That time you will come to know how to work out this kind of variances in the next videos. The seventh one I mentioned over here, capacity variance. How to calculate capacity variance. To what extent a company can produce units within this task. This called it as capacity variance. So again, we need to compare two things. Revised budgeted units minus budgeted units. Just look at the problem, whether the revised budgeted units is given or not. If it is not given, we need to calculate. And the last one is calendar variance. How to calculate the calendar variance? Means standard rate per day or per hour into excess or deficit day or hours worked. We need to calculate by comparing that actual working days or excess working days. If it is given in the problem, means say for example, the 25 days is given for a month, but they work for 27 days, means we need to compare this excess or deficit day or hours work. Standard rate per day or per hour we need to compare to calculate the calendar variances. So these are the formulas usually will apply to calculate the overhead variances. In next video, I will start teaching how to calculate the overhead variances by using all these formulas. Okay, to calculate the overhead variances. Thank you for watching this video. Please, if you want to look at the previous videos, just check my description box. Stay safe, stay home.